everyone. Welcome to this month's edition of North Central Outdoors. I'm your host, Nathan Karch. I want to give you an update on the 2019 boating season so far. It's been really good, really productive. A lot of people are out there enjoying our waterways. Of course, we're here in District 21, so our major waterways is the Cumberland River, Old Hickory Lake, and Percy Priest. Now, we've got a few little rivers and streams here and there, but those are the ones that we're focusing on. So if I'm talking about the traffic on those waterways or our big waterways, that's what I'm referring to. There hasn't been a whole lot of just inclement weather, just big storms that have run a lot of people off the lake. It's been a very good year, and we've got plenty of time to go. So, if you hadn't had the opportunity yet to get out on the water, you got plenty of time left. I know several people, including myself, that boat all the way into the end of October. Might not want to get in the water at that time. It'll be a little chilly, but it's always fun to just get out there and enjoy being on the water. I just want to let you know of a few violations that we see just all the time. It's from year to year, but these are, I'm going to go over kind of the three top, maybe four top violations that we see every year out on the water, and especially this year, that we normally write the most citations for or give warnings to. So the first one being registration violations. Most people don't realize that registration actually starts from the day that you buy it. So you can buy it in 1, 2, or 3 year increments for your boat. It's got to be registered in Tennessee if you live here, and so it starts from the day you buy it. It's very unlike the hunting and fishing license that no matter when you buy it, it always expires at the end of February. So just be mindful of that, if you may have, thought you bought registration, I don't know, 2 years ago or something like that. You might want to check it. It could be good for 3 years. The 3 year is our most popular one. It's the best bang for your buck. So just be mindful of that, check that, and make sure that you're in date. The other thing is, if you are running at night, you have to have your navigation lights displayed. Make sure those are working even before you go out, before it's too late. Now, when I say night, I'm referring to legal sunset. And at legal sunset, just depending on the environmental conditions of that certain day, it may not be dark at all. Honestly, there might be about 30 minutes of last light left that you can see. And if it's a clear night, you could probably see across the lake at legal sunset. There's many times where I can do that, and I'm not so concerned about that. We give a good grace period, but if it's cloudy, overcast conditions to where I can't see 100 yards at legal sunset, it's very important that you have those navigation lights on, because if you're going at a high rate of speed, you can cover 100 yards very quickly on the water. So just make sure that your red and green and your all-around white light work. That's what you have to have on at legal sunset all the way to legal sunrise if you are underway. If you are anchored or moored, which just means you're tied off to something, you are allowed to have just the all-around white light on. You don't have to have your red and greens. You can turn that off. I know in the summertime people hate the bugs. I hate the bugs too, but you've got to roll with it. You just got to have that light on. That way you're visible from 360 degrees. These navigation lights, they're called navigation lights for other people. It's not for you. It's not for you to navigate. It's for other people to realize your orientation in the water. So it's very important that they can see where you're going, where you're headed. That way they can avoid a collision. A lot of people are running these LED strips along, pontoons, or they've got just like a swim platform light underneath the water on these big wakeboard boats, or LED lighting all around the bimini top. You can't have those on while you're underway. So the only thing that you can have on while you're underway is just the red, green, and all-around white light. It's perfectly fine to turn on all your lights, especially a lot of these bass fishermen, they'll turn on their bait lights, and they're normally purple to attract the bait up at night to the surface. You can't run with those on, but if you're stationary, it's perfectly fine. So just be mindful of that. The reason being is those lights actually drown out the red and greens, and people can't tell, you know, what orientation you are. They don't know if you're headed left or you're headed right. So that's why we ask you to just run with the red, green, and white light. Another big issue, this is the third violation that we see most often, is inadequate number of life jackets on board the vessels. So if you are 13 years of age or older, you don't have to wear one while you're underway on a boat, but if you're 12 and under, you have to wear it at all times, and we encounter this almost every single day that we're out there on the water. Children, you know, they get hot, they're uncomfortable, it's constricting. Just make sure that they have a life jacket that they feel comfortable with. Go ahead and spend the extra money. Make sure that, you know, they wear it, and be the example for them. Wear yours as well, please, because it's not just about, you know, you and feeling comfortable. Your family really wants you to return home safe, and that's what we want too. So be the good example and wear those life jackets, okay? You also have to have an adequate number for every person on board. So that includes all the Coast Guard approved life jackets. That does not include the ones that self-inflate if you got the pull tab. Those only count if you're wearing them. So if you have those on board and that's the only thing you have on board, you've got to get something that is inherently buoyant. And what I mean by inherently buoyant is as soon as it hits the water, it's going to float. They all have to be Coast Guard approved. We see a lot of these competition vests that wakeboarders use, that they're just very flexible and the maneuverability in them is really good, but they're meant for you to be conscious and just kind of keep afloat. If you were to be knocked unconscious, they would not float you. So Coast Guard approved, inherently buoyant, and it does have to be readily accessible. So we oftentimes see these generic orange ones that come 4 to a pack, stashed away in the bottom of the boat somewhere in a storage compartment that's locked. That is not readily accessible. That does not count. If you had an emergency situation, you would need to access those as soon as possible. And so make sure that you can get to those, and also that they fit everyone on board. So if you're used to having children on board and you've got a bunch of youth life jackets and the kids are away for the weekend or something like that, and you invite your buddies to go out and all you have is youth life jackets, that doesn't count either. You got to have something that fits everyone. And then another one, which is not as big of a deal, is the Type 4 throwable device. It's a square throw cushion, and you can also get by with the circular ring buoy. That's perfectly fine. You'll most often see that probably at public pools, a city pool, or a hotel where they've got the straps on the sides. That's for an emergency situation where if somebody was out of reach, you could throw that to them really easily and they could stay afloat. I don't know if you've ever tried to throw a life jacket, but there's a lot of wind resistance and you just can't throw a life jacket. So that's why we have that. And that's for vessels 16 feet and over that you have to have that requirement. So that's enough about boating. We're going to jump into the 2019 Velvet Hunt. That is basically the start of our deer season. It's a 3-day hunt, and it's at the end of August, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. It'll be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you'll be able to go out those 3 days. It is a archery only, buck only, or antler deer only, and private lands only hunt. So those 3 things are big. The wildlife management areas and public land will not be available for that hunt. You'll have to wait for the statewide opener for archery in the end of September. So this is a perfect opportunity for a lot of people that have access to private land to get out there and chase that trophy buck that they've been after. If you've been seeing a really good mature buck on camera, that is a fantastic opportunity to go get him, because they are patterned up this time of year and you can get by with a lot. Scent control, you always want to practice good scent control, but it's not necessarily vital this time of year because they're in big bachelor groups and they're with these younger little dumber bucks, and they are not paying attention. So When they get with a younger herd of deer, they just go with the flow, and they are on a strict and tight schedule. So if you know their pattern and their schedule, there's a good opportunity that you can harvest one of those big bucks. So we'll go over some of the licensing that you'll need for this hunt. First and foremost is just your type basic 001. That is your hunting and fishing combo. That is just the base license, and then you can add on to that with all the state supplemental licenses. You'll need that, and then your big game archery license, and just those two licenses will cover you. If you are a sportsman's license holder, that will cover you as well. That covers basically every supplemental license in the state, and then of course if you're a lifetime license holder, that will cover you as well. Being that it is archery, you do not have to wear orange, but just be mindful that there are people in the woods. Most people hunt from tree stands or ground blinds this time of year. There's not a lot of stalk hunting going on, just being that, one, the vegetation is so thick. There is good cover for it, but you can't, your field of view is very limited, and the bugs are out in full force, and it's very, very, very hot. So people want to usually remain stationary with a little bit of cover. So if you are hunting out of a tree stand, please wear your full body harness and use a haul line. And the haul line is just a string that's attached to the top of the stand, and you haul your gear up and you haul your archery equipment up. That way you don't have to climb up with that stuff, and you can, you know, use at least 3, hopefully 4 points of contact at all times, and just climb up there and then get your equipment up there after the fact. Whenever you're out there, be mindful that it's summer and the bugs are out in full force. So there is a lot of diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes and ticks this time of year, and they're heavy. So like I said before, you can get by with a lot of stuff. You don't have to practice as good a scent control this time of year as other times of the year. So make sure you spray down before you go to your stand. A lot of people are using these electronic thermocells, and those are fantastic. They'll keep the mosquitoes away while you're up there in the stand, but they don't help you when you're going towards your stand. So spray down with some All for Repel, something that's got a good concentration of DEET in it. You could also spray your clothing with the Permanon or Permethrin. That really, really works. Hopefully go with something that's scent-free, that the deer can't detect. But it's very important that you take care of yourself. The last thing you want to be doing is just you know, getting eat up out there and scratching while you're in your deer stand, and you scare off the buck of a lifetime. Plus you don't want to lose a pint of blood while you're up there either. But make sure you spray down. And also, if you harvest a buck, you're going to want to field dress that deer immediately, just because of the temperature. This time of year, it's very, very hot, it's very humid. The meat will spoil almost immediately if you don't get that thing on ice. So whenever you go out there, just prepare like you're going to harvest a deer, and be ready for that. Have your field dress knives and gloves available, and get ready to field dress that deer whenever you harvest it, and then immediately go stuff it full of ice and get it to your processor, because again, it's going to spoil fast. And then the final thing that is always very controversial is the baiting. We realize that this time of year there's a lot of people that don't want to participate in the velvet hunt. If they get that trophy buck, it is very, very expensive to take it to the taxidermist just to preserve those antlers in full velvet. It runs almost twice as much as a normal buck, so we realize people don't want to do that. And it's also extremely hot, extremely buggy, and it's only 3 days, so if you work on the weekends or something like that, you won't be able to participate. So people wait until the September hunt. You don't have to pull your bait up for that hunt, but you can't hunt it if it's baited. So just be mindful of that. No grains whatsoever, no corn, soybeans, fruits. You cannot use any type of grains whatsoever. So if it has any type of concentration of grains, you can't use it. A lot of these blocks, the big J blocks, they have a lot of concentration of minerals, but they also have grains, so you can't use those. You can get away with just whole minerals, salt blocks, trophy rocks. All those are good to go. You can hunt over those, but again, no corn or anything like that. If you are hunting in a food plot, perfectly acceptable. It is a normal agricultural practice. If you're hunting next to a standing cornfield, soybean field, that's just a good spot. Also, these big white oaks and persimmon trees, that's just a really good spot. There's a good chance that there's going to be a deer trail running right through those. So you know, put your stand up right there. But the moment that you go and grab you a handful of those persimmons or a bucket full of acorns and then place them in front of your stand, you have then altered that, and that is considered baiting. So I know there's a lot of gray area there, and I could probably go on and on through certain scenarios, but if you're on the fence about it and don't know whether or not it's baiting or not, just don't do it. Play it safe and don't do it. Again, if you do have bait out and you're not planning on hunting the August velvet hunt, keep it out, you know, entice those deer, but it does have to be all up 10 days prior to the hunt. So if you're currently baiting, it needs to be up very fast. So everything has to be 10 days up from 10 days prior to that hunt. It doesn't mean that you go in there, pour your bait down, and in 10 days you can hunt it. It's got to be all up. So if there's any questions about that, feel free to contact me at nathan.karch@tn.gov. I'd love to help you out in any way that I can. I hope everybody has a great rest of their fall and summer, and I hope you have a very successful velvet hunt if you decide to get out there. And remember to be safe on the waterways. Always wear your life jacket, and just have fun. And we'll see you next time.